Now we're going to talk about finding domains of functions given the equation of that function. And to start off here on this example, we are just going to find the function values they ask us for, if possible. And that's the key thing, is domain has to do with what values are we allowed to plug in for our x value and get an answer. So if we plug something in and we don't get an answer, that answer would not, or that value we plug in would not be in the domain for that function. So if I do f of 2 on this first problem, that means I'm plugging a 2 in where x is, and I get 2 over negative 2, which is negative 1. Since I got an answer, that means that 2 is in the domain of the function. And so now I want to plug in the 4. And I get 2 over 0, and that's a problem. We are not able to divide by 0. That's not how division works. And so if you don't believe me, plug it into your calculator and you'll get an error. So since this value is, we call that undefined when that happens, since that value is undefined, then we would say that 4 is not in our domain. And you might think about for a second, well, what just happened? The number that we plugged in that gave us a 0 on the bottom is the number that didn't work. And that's going to be important for fractions as far as figuring out their domain goes. On this next one, we've got a square root. So we want to plug in 9 to start off with here. The square root of 9 is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. So 9 is in our domain because we got an answer. And now when I plug in negative 2, when I try to take the square root of negative 2, I have a problem. This gives me a not real answer. And in later chapters in your class, you'll probably talk about imaginary numbers and things like that. But for now, all that matters is that's not a real answer, which means that negative 2 is not in our domain. So think about what happened there. Having a negative under our square root was an issue with our domain.